Okay, so hello everyone, and today I'm going to get into sharing character details. So, if you notice a lot in my stories that I leave out a lot of details for the characters as to, when it comes to ethnicity, when it comes to body type, and, like I don't use too many details because like I said, when creating these characters, I'm thinking about other things. So if I wanted to put a production together, I don't want to feel like, oh, I have to find a petite Asian woman or a petite black woman or a petite white woman. You know what I'm saying? Which is why a lot of the times I stay away from doing too much with the characters, giving too much details. So in my story Everclear, that story was very purposeful and it had a lot to do with race and racism. Well, subliminally, okay? But so therefore I created a lot of details in the characters, okay, to where they are paying more attention to the character features. Like Benjamin Huey is a white guy and he has red hair, orange ginger hair, and he has blue eyes. Okay, Everly is a black woman and she has hair, you know, her hair is twisted and it comes down to her shoulders. Okay, so I described her hair when she took off her afro wig in the story. Her hair falls down to her shoulders like ropes. Okay, so I went ahead and did that, and even in that story, to where Georgie's character comes into play, he's a little more outspoken about the difference between the West End and the East End. Okay, so but like I said, that was very purposeful. I did that on purpose. But for majority of my stories, I like to leave things open. Because my thing is talent is talent. And me as a creator, I like to keep things open to be able to co-create. I don't like limiting myself, and I don't really like finalizing or putting so much into a box unless that is what I am trying to do. And when that happens, a lot of the times it's because, I'm trying to teach, or it's almost as if it's like propaganda in a way. You know, it's very touchy. It's very controversial because when the Hunger Games first came out, people were upset that Rue was black. And I'm just like, oh my god. Well, for one, that's a little girl. Like the world will show its ugly head every. The world will show its ugly head. And I don't like that. I don't deal with that racist shit. It's all about unity over here, honey. I don't do the discriminating. Just because I am a black woman, I'm not going to sit here and write all of my stories about black people and just center myself around black scenarios or black issues. For one, we have enough people out there that are doing that. You know, I am a magical woman. And I take pride in that. And that is who I want to be. I want to be myself. And I'm not going to put any limits on myself or, my imagination. I'm not going to get too crazy, but, I don't always, even though I can be, and I usually try to be very purposeful in the things in which that I create, there are certain levels to it. Like, it stresses me out talking about this type of stuff, but I feel like it needs to be said. As a young girl, when growing up, okay, so I'm 35 now, right? But when I was younger, when I was a young girl, and I would draw and I would paint, you know, of course, I grew up in predominantly black areas, you know. Well, actually, I didn't. My mother actually kept us out of those areas. But we went to school to where it was integrated, and a lot of the like hoods, the projects, and all that type of stuff, you know, those children will go to school with us, and it was a lot of them, and of course, majority of them were black. So, you know, they used to always ask me, well, you know, why are you, you know, why don't you draw more black people? Why don't you draw more jazz type of stuff? Why don't you draw more things culturally that, you know, are relatable for black people? You know, because at one point in time, I would just sketch and draw people. I wouldn't put colors on them because, you know, that's just not how I see the world. Okay, like, I'm not stupid. I know that you know, I know that a Caucasian person has peach skin, and I know that a black person you know, has brown skin. You know, I know that an Asian, you know, individual, they consider to be yellow skin. Okay, my grandmother is Japanese and my grandfather is black. So my father is half Japanese and half black. So I am a quarter, you know, and a quarter Japanese, you know, and you know, I come from that background. And I think that a lot of people growing up, they didn't understand that about me, you know. And I take pride in my roots. I take pride in my family. I take pride in that, you know. So you know, I get passionate about these types of conversations because, you know, for one, it kind of annoys me. So in a way, I'm trying to alchemize myself emotionally, you know. But it's just, you know, like sometimes the color of people's skin, it just puts them into a box, and other people want to put you into a box. I'm a bird. I want to fly. You know, don't box me in, don't fence me in, don't cage me down, don't anchor me. You know, don't do it. So, you know, when it comes to characters, you know, I don't really go in on too much detail. I don't go in on too much detail about, you know, like the size of the character, if they're overweight or if they're not overweight, you know, or what have you. You know, I like to leave things open, but there will be stories that I will in the future, you know, I probably will kind of get a little more in depth and in detail, you know, with the details of the character, but shit, you know, for now, I'm flying. I'm flying out here. Shit. You know, like talent is talent. So if I was to put a production together, you know, I'm looking for talent. You know, I'm not looking for you to look a certain part. And your ass ain't got no talent in acting. You know? No. Absolutely not. You know, they're gonna fuck up my shit. You know, and that's me being really honest. Okay? That's me being honest. Um, because I'm gonna tell you, when it comes to, once again, when we go back to talking to actors and actresses, you know, that is an art. You know, people can be going through things in their personal life. They could be sick, you know, and you you know, like, if that is your profession, you know, you got to put all, you got to be mind over matter. You got to put all that shit to the side, and you got to step into your role. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's so much to consider, you know, and to think about. It's just like if you go to work for a nine, if you work a 9 to 5, you know, your job, okay, of course you get sick, of course you may have to leave early because of the children, but your job really doesn't want to hear that. You know what I mean? So it's kind of the same way. It's a job. It's a career. You know, so, you know, I need, you know, I need people who are good, people who are talented, but like I said in the previous video, that's why it's important for me to be able to pay people for their time and for their talent, for their craft, but we'll see in the future. We'll see what happens. There's been a lot of very sacredistic things in which that are taking place in my life right now. So, who's to say what is what? I keep my mind open. I keep possibilities open, so we'll see. There's a lot of hidden talent out there, and who knows? You never know. But even when it comes to the Glacier Sword of the Oddities, I didn't really go into too many details about describing the oddities. Okay, in my mind, I envision, if there was a production, that everybody would look different. Okay, like, of course they would have similarities, maybe, they would have some type of similarities, but they're gonna be different. Okay, so my vision, how I saw it, their bodies are made from diamond dust, like, so they are represented as stars. Okay, so of course everybody would have, like, I picture dark green, like a dark green tint, very dark green. Okay, very dark green tint to their skin, and they would have like sparkles and glitter all over, their bodies and stuff like that. So, let's just say pastel colors. That's in the way in which that I pictured the oddities. Dark pastel earthly colors with sparkles on their skin. But I didn't even put that into the story. I didn't even go into detail like that. So, whatever, right? It gets complex, it gets complicated. It's almost kind of like a trigger. It's almost kind of triggering for me, because it takes me back to the days at school, when people will always try to put me into a box. And, with so much peer pressure and then being influenced by your peers, there were times to where I did, kind of put myself in a box. And, even as an adult, on certain journeys, in which that I've had, I have put myself in a box, but hey, it's all an experience. You live and you learn. So, whatever. But for the most part, that is why I kind of leave the door open and not give too many details into the characters. I just, it has to be open. I don't talk about what they're wearing, what they have on. I don't do all that. In Everclear, I did all that. Okay, in that story, I did all that. Okay, so throughout the story, you kind of know, what the characters are wearing. Their features. Right. I'ma leave the door open. I'ma leave the door open. So yeah. That is actually going to conclude this video in my explanation of the character details. Okay, so because I actually have been questioned. I've been questioned about that. Well, this character, like, what does their voice sound like? And that's another thing. Like, I do like to do like animation. And I do, and when I say animation, I mean like vocal animation. I like people that can kind of take on like different accents and stuff like that. you know, and, like the chameleons. I'm a chameleon in my own way. You know what I mean? And I feel like everybody who I meet that I consider to be a chameleon, they have their own like little lizardy reptile way of magic, in their abilities and in their talents. I have a good eye for stuff like that. I'm very observant, so I love to watch, I love to study. I kind of like to, when it comes to myself, I like to push myself outside of my box. Sometimes I like to, push the limits. I have a lot of skits that I have done. Oh my goodness, I forgot about my skits. I have created, I think, about 5 skits. Um, I just wrote it and recorded it. Sometimes of course, I try to do like masculine and feminine, and I try to bounce back in between a feminine voice and then a masculine voice, you know. Um, but, like voiceovers, stuff like that. I think about, if I were to create a cartoon, like I'm clairvoyant, if you don't, so I'm clairvoyant, clairaudient, clairsentient. I'm Claire, honey. So there are things in which that I can hear in people's voice. You know, some people have very, what I consider to be very talented voices, because their voices are hypnotizing, or their voices are extremely attractive. And it's just like, oh my God, who is this? Like, like, who is this stepping into the room? Sometimes people have voices, you don't even see them, but you know their presence when they speak, because you hear their voice before they even enter. Oh, yeah, my titty papa. Because you hear their voice before you see them. So people with big voices, I was thinking about creating an opera piece, you know, and just thinking about, just thinking about, just how big the voices are, how loud it is, But then again, you have some individuals who have very monotone, it's a uniqueness, and I know it when I hear it, and even with some people's voices, because what people don't understand too is that sound is a healing wave. You can heal people through sound. So some people, they have very healing voices, and I think that is what I am attracted to the most. Okay, it doesn't matter if it's a big voice, it doesn't matter if it's a small voice, it doesn't matter if it's like a monotone voice. The vibration of it, I can hear it. I can hear it, I can feel it. So, you know, you can't put a limit. We're not doing any limiting. You cannot put a limit on, like written characters and then have a vision. Well, you can have a vision, but like, you may envision someone who's not real, who's not, what I'm saying, like nobody looks like this person that you're picturing. Okay, so, but I'm pretty sure that most people, most writers, they pretty much stay in the description of the typical, you got different hair colors, you got different eye colors, you got different skin colors, you have different features. Some features are big on people, like their face and stuff, and some people's features are smaller and all that type of stuff. It's a whole big web, and it just takes my mind all over the place, and I don't like that. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. Okay, so you know, so that's why when it comes to me going into detail with the characters, I really don't do that. And I feel like when I create the dialogue or the monologue between two characters, I feel like, I'm not speaking in a way to where, or I'm not writing in a way to where it's for a specific, like race, you know just like with okay, a character, John, like John can have any accent. You know what I'm saying? But a lot of the times when it comes to accents, you kind of have to give a little more background on that character and where they come from. So that's something that you would actually have to add into the story. So, there are like little gray areas. There are little gray areas in there, but for the most part, there I told you there's a lot that goes into me thinking about these characters. Okay? But we're going to wrap it up here, and until the next time, we'll talk again.